Hi, it's Sarah Jane from Access Your True Nature with your daily love soundbite. It's a beautiful day where I am, and I woke up this morning feeling a little unsettled. I don't know if you can relate to having those days when you just know something's off, and it took me a few moments in quiet contemplation to actually really get underneath the feeling of why I was feeling so edgy. Everything was just kind of really raw this morning. And when I started to go deep into it, I realized that I had an event coming up, and there was just something off about it. I didn't want to go, and I had been trying to convince myself. I'm sure you can relate to that beautiful ego that just wants you to be right and has all the reasons and justifications why you should do something, and yet your nervous system is telling you something's really, really off. And I kind of had to take a dose of my own medicine. Hi, Dwayne. In really looking at where I was forcing myself out of alignment with what feels good to me, and I was going against my gut knowing, going against my intuition, just going against everything that I stand for in leading with authenticity, showing up in your true nature, regardless of what other people are doing. And I recognized that there was something about this event, and I'd been to a couple of them before, okay? Just in case, I was missing something, just in case I was wrong, just in case, it was all my fault, right? That I wasn't able to trust my gut knowing from that first moment that this just wasn't in alignment with how I show up in the world, how I create business, how I create connections with my community, with my clients, and that it just was okay to not feel good about it and just make a choice and not go. Yeah, that's great, Dwayne. So, how many of you can actually relate to that place of putting yourself so on edge, having your nervous system screaming at you to really look at where are you out of alignment with your core values, with your purpose, with your message, with what you stand for in the world? And would you be willing to actually go against the grain and follow that rather than go into things? It's just like those moments where you kick yourself because you knew and you went in the other direction anyway. So the short version of that example of what it feels like to follow what's good for you and trust your own intuitive knowing is really to look at where we jump into things in spite of our body telling us not to go, because it's not kind and it's not generative. And we talked a little bit about this in how we show up and create nurturing, kind relationships that are in allowance of how we are and going there. So I wanted to look at that a little bit more today. I'll share another funny story with you that might be relevant to what's going on in your life and in how you're choosing to make decisions based on what you know to be true for you and where you are in your life. And this might be whether you're being told by marketing people to be more visible, or that you need to raise your rates, and it doesn't feel good in where you are at in your life, and yet you force yourself into that place of discomfort and make yourself wrong based on the opinions and decisions and judgments and conclusions of other people. So I'm not saying that they don't have value in your life, to listen to people that can hold that vision for you, but to really keep checking in with yourself in how does this feel in my body to go there, and getting curious about it. So the example I was going to share with you is I have one of my cats, Toby, and he's an old boy. I mean, he's going on 18. He's got a great life, but he's very blonde. And with all the years of being in the African sunshine, he's developed skin cancer in the tips of sort of both of his ears here. And it forms like a big horn, and then he scratches it off because it's obviously irritating him. And then it gets all weepy and seepy, and as much as I've worked on it from an energetic point of view of healing, and also topical with oxygen creams and fulvic acid and optimizing CoQ10s in his diet, it never seems to be healing. And it's looking really, really bad at the moment. And I keep checking in with him, and I keep saying, is it time? Do we need to go to the vet? And he gives me this look, and he turns around and he walks out the room, which would be a really good cue that would be a no, that's not going to be a contribution to him, that he's okay, he's not in pain, it's just annoying. And I thought about getting him one of those collars so that he can't scratch, but I know it's not going to add any quality to his life, and that's what he's choosing, and that I need to really just honor that. Sorry, somebody's calling me. Just honor that and keep checking in with him. But for now, what feels good to him is to leave him, and for me to trust that his body knows what it needs to heal, and that any energetic support, any topical support, anything that I can contribute to that in allowance of his decision is what he wants. And I need to get out of my own way in thinking, oh my gosh, this looks so bad, it's not healing, and going into all the projections of what this could mean as far as his quality of life. And that sort of brings me back to what I wanted to talk about today, with following what feels good to you and choosing to go in the direction of what is aligning in your choices with where you are in your life, in your business, in your relationships, regardless of what other people have to say. Hi, Eleanor. Nice to see you here. Hi, Suzanne. Yeah. So just remember, one of your most important body system is your nervous system. And when you can improve the health of this very precious system, you improve the rest of your life. And if you're listening to this and you're going, well, I don't even know what my nervous system is, so why should I even be here? My answer to you is, please stay, because here's a fact. Every single human being on the planet has a nervous system, and I believe that it's one of the biggest untapped resources as humans that we have, that we're not using. And I just wanted to really just give you a little crash course today on nervous system health, so that you can see what happens when your nervous system is happy and healthy, and also when it isn't. And if this interests you and you want to go further, then I invite you to go onto my store at Access Your True Nature and go and look at the Out of the Blues from Depressed to Fully Expressed home study course, because I've seen people's lives change. The foggy brain stuff goes away, success becomes sustainable, and being burnt out, stressed out, and constantly and overwhelmed because of all these old unresolved traumas is just not a great way to live. So this program that I've developed is designed to really kickstart your nervous system. And if you're anything like me and you want to have an incredible life being you might know that self-care is probably one of the most important elements that's going to get you there and humming at a really high level without burnout. Taking care of your body mind should be taught early, and it's not, because there's so many things to do. And finding the right practices that are in alignment with where you're at can be a little confusing, because there's so many options out there, and maybe you don't know who to see or where to put your precious time and money. And then when you do find these things that you like and you get results, you often fall behind. So keeping routine in check is not always easy, and it leads to frustration and feeling stuck, or that edginess that I felt this morning, not to mention feeling a bit defeated because your goals were never being reached. And I have a really busy private practice where I help people heal from the root cause of their trauma so that they can up their game in whatever walk of life they need help with. So if you want to read more about that and me, go to my website and check me out. But My client stories are really quite similar. You know, they're vigilant in sticking with their self-care, and they're doing a lot of work, and they've already invested quite a lot of time in their self-care, and they've seen lots of healers and practitioners and coaches and done all the self-help books, and they do experience a little bit of relief, and they have an impressive toolbox. But something still doesn't shift deep inside them. In their core being, they're still a little bit off. And what I realized is that they're still stuck in this fight, flight, freeze response. And these survival systems are hindering their capacity to heal. It really just keeps their resistance on high. And a lot of my clients find themselves really being hijacked by these uncomfortable emotions and this negative self-sabotaging talk that puts them down even after years of positive psychology and therapy. And a lot of them are embarrassed because they're triggered. They snap at the littlest things because they're hyper vigilant all the time. So, you know, what is up with all of that? You know, they're mantraing and they're meditating and they're juicing and they're sleeping and they're doing all of this, but they're still feeling sick and tired and unmotivated and a little temperamental. But when they start to learn the language of their nervous system, of why the trauma hasn't resolved in the first place, they start to build more and more capacity to not only heal their most pesky and stubborn health issues, but they start to realize that they can be in stressful situations without stress affecting them, because they're getting tuned into their own biological responses, and they start to alter and rewire their neural circuitry on their brain. Right. Thank you, Eleanor. So yeah, so in the past, if you were procrastinating and shut down for weeks, my desire really is to teach you the beginning steps so that you can take charge of your health and how you age and how you stay well and create great relationships. So there's many ways that you can do that. And I really believe that I want people to be their own medicine. I want you to be able to help yourself and keep your immune system strong, keep your digestion flowing nice and smoothly, and how you can show up in the world with power and presence and be clear in your capacity to set healthy boundaries. So when you begin any of my practices, you start to be able to process a lot of these old traumatic memories that have been holding you back for so very long. So here's a little science lesson that I'm hoping is going to give you an overview on why taking care of your nervous system is so important. Your nervous system's responsible for basic physiological functions, and the trouble is that when it's out of whack, we actually do start to think about them because they're not working properly. You feel awful, and it causes a lot of heartache. And speaking of your heart, your nervous system's what keeps your heart beating and regulated. Imagine having to think, okay, I have to keep my heart beating. Now I have to swallow. Or how about this one? Oh, I've got to walk up a flight of stairs. I better increase my heart rate, or it's time to go to bed. Maybe I need to slow down my heart rate for the night. And the thing is, when your nervous system isn't working properly, and I'll get to this in a minute, it starts to beat a little funny. It gets confused and the signals don't sync up. You know, maybe it's not beating enough when you need it to, making it hard to get oxygen to your blood and your brains and your organs and your nervous system. Or maybe when you want it to slow down, it keeps thumping really hard, even though it has no reason to be beating that hard when you're falling asleep at night. Or maybe it starts beating on high for no apparent reason. And this is what happens when people say they're having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, because the nervous system's basically hijacking the nervous system and upping the threat response for no reason. So that's how it functions. You know, the heart beats under the nervous system, and when it's out of whack and things start to go awry, your immune system is another thing that's also governed by your nervous system, not to mention all the hormones that are getting pumped around in your blood turning on all these different pathways and processes for regeneration and cell growth. And if it's not working properly, your immune system gets really scrambled up and confused, and one of two things happen. Either it doesn't work enough or it works too much, and it starts to all right, I'm back. So finally, you know, about gut instincts. Well, one of the systems that has the most impact is the gut to brain axis and your digestive system. And your gut's like this big brain, right? Some of the biggest nervous system connections are between your brain and your gut. Specifically, a nervous system pathway called the vagus nerve, which is sort of the main conduit between your gut and your brain. And although these pathways are a little bit too complex for today, just believe me when I say that the gut instincts that you feel or that you hear people talk about, they are very, very real. And the healthier your nervous system is, the more in tune you're going to be to your gut instincts. Just trust me on this one. All right? So, you know, your nervous system runs a lot of... Oh dear, I don't know what's going on. But okay, so what I was trying to say is that the fight, flight, freeze thing, we all know what it means to be in fight, flight, and we often connect that to that whole thing about the lion about to attack us, and most likely we've tried to run away or flee from it. That's the fight, flight, and we all know it, especially if you live in South Africa. But in our modern world, our fight, flight, freeze responses don't have to contend with tigers, but what we do have are very stressful, threatening events that gets our nervous system really revved up to the max. You know, the near miss on the highway, your heart rate's rockets. Or someone that's a little off in a dark alley at night and you're trying to escape, or it makes you start to really get yourself ready to run because your nervous system's driving that, and that's important when it's healthy to keep you alive. But when you're looking at bills that can't be paid and how far behind you are, or if you're not going to be able to meet your rent, your nervous system doesn't know the difference and it goes into high alert, and that's when you can't sleep. Or think about an angry friend or a spouse or a teacher that used to scream, and it used to put you into shutdown as a child, and you learn to be helpless. There's so many ways we as humans encounter threatening and stressful situations that put us in this hyper-vigilant, high alert and bring up those stress hormones. So that's the fight, flight, and there's just one other reflexive response that I've hinted on a little bit ago, and that's what our nervous system does when stuff gets really, really dicey, and that's called that freeze response. And this response is a little bit more complex, but for now, let's just say that it's the one response that's probably the most toxic, and something I talk a lot about when I talk about adverse childhood experiences, because this is what makes us break down later on in life. So when we bring those earlier functions in that I mentioned, the regulation of your heart rate, your immune system, your hormonal release, your digestion, your blood pressure, and your breath rate, they're all systems that are automatically affected by your nervous system. And when you've had stressful things happen in your past, there's this thing that all of us humans do, and I've done this a lot myself, and we're really, really good at this, and it's this: staying stuck in those survival stages of fight, flight, and freeze. And over time, months, years, even decades, this high energy, high chemical toxic soup that you're in wears on your basic systems. Your immune system weakens, your heart weakens, your digestion weakens, and it doesn't gets to repair. I mean, think about leaky guts. You know, in a sense, it's like it's marinating in toxic stress all the time. That's that long, unpredictable toxic stress over a long period of time. So, quick review. Your nervous system governs a lot of your major systems. It's responsible for keeping you safe. But when those safety reflexes don't stay off or neuromodulate over time, this is when you start to get really, really sick. So what we're wanting to do is reverse this by getting to the root cause and getting your brain to recognize that there's nothing to be afraid of. There's no imminent threat. And we need to be able to say to the nervous system, to say, I'm okay. I don't have to work so hard at this. And by the way, those stress chemicals I keep talking about, you've probably heard of them before. It's your adrenaline, your cortisol, your norepinephrine, all of those. And in little doses, they help us. They protect us. They help us calm down body inflammation. But over time, they don't get better with age if they're left on. And one thing science shows is that most of our Western diseases and our chronic conditions, as well as emotional shutdown and addictions, trouble staying motivated, or being able to cultivate good connections of love and empathy, are a direct result of being swimming in these toxic chemicals from a very early age in childhood. And when this happens, all that nervous system foundation and the wiring starts to get really, really faulty. And because the foundation isn't laid, it's a lot easier to be stressed out and anxious. And in terms of the body's capacity to handle life's events and stresses, the system really gets filled up to a point where it can't handle any more stress. Similar to a cup being filled with water, the body and its systems that can't hold any more toxic stuff inside. And this is when that cup starts to overflow. We've just reached our limit, right? Our breaking point. And that's where we see a lot of breakdowns. And the point is, we don't realize the cup's filling up until it's too late. And the key to avoiding this and reversing any damage that's already been done is to really start treating your nervous system, rewiring that brain circuit before your cup fills up and takes over, before you burn out, before your immune system breaks down or you start to have body breakdown. But let's say it is already overflowing, okay? Just take this as a very important wake-up call. Your body never lies. Your nervous system and all the other systems connected to it want to heal. They want you to thrive, and it has its potential to change and rewire. And that's that field of neuroscience. It's what I call neuroplasticity, and I cover this in depth in the Out of the Blues course. So take a look at that. I've done a lot of homework, and this course is really one of a kind. There's nothing like it that I know of, and I've studied a lot of other programs. I've done a lot of healing work that work at the level of the nervous system to help relieve these fight, flight, freeze systems and reset from adverse childhood trauma. And I've put it into practice in my own life and with my clients through neuroplastic healing and somatic release work. And there's a lot that I want to tell you and teach you, and obviously I'm not going to cover it all today, but if you're feeling drawn to know more about how to practice what it takes to becoming your own medicine, then please know that I have you covered on so many different levels. There's lots of choices, and I would be honored to be able to support you and find out what's the best match for you. And maybe that is going to be some of the education on how to immediately relieve your stress so you can get out of survival mode. And maybe the education-based part of neuroplasticity is something that you're going to be drawn to. At the end of the day, we just want to get you out of swimming in this toxic soup. And you know, I really hope that everything that I give to you, whether it's these daily little sound bites or whether you choose to work with me one-on-one, I want you to just know that the health and the success of your journey to becoming everything that you came to be through working with epigenetics is such a powerful contributor to our health and well-being. And our DNA itself is an incredible way to heal without you having to become a rocket science. You have the control over what genes are expressed in your DNA and what genes are not, what you expose yourself to or who you expose yourself to, and how you were nurtured as you were little or how you're nurturing yourself as an adult. And this is all important and vital in the information that I share, where we can bring it all together in this holistic body-mind approach. And this course is something I'm very, very proud of, that because I know it creates lasting change that sticks for everyone that's been through it. So if you're looking for a way that's easy, I'm 100% certain that if you follow the program at your own speed, it's going to make a massive impact on how you show up in your life, heal your past traumas, and stop yourself from getting new ones. And it's also going to influence how you take on self-care from today onwards. So if anything has resonated with you today, have a look at the Out of the Blues program. It would be, as I said, my absolute honor to be your teacher and mentor in this process. And as I've already mentioned, I really, really am it's my mission in life to help you be your own medicine and have a remarkable life Your DNA wants to express. Your blueprint is already there. And if your gut is telling you that you're ready to create more change in your life, I would be so happy to support you in getting there. And how can you do that if you're still not sure where to go? Is I invite you into a 30-minute conversation with me. Whether you decide to stay and work with me or go and do your own exploration, I'll love you anyway. There's no questions asked. I want you to get this stuff. You can become your own medicine. It's up to you, and it starts with you taking the same step. So I hope that didn't sound salesy or pushy. It wasn't my intention to go there. I really wanted you to just give you some information on how vital the nervous system is in healing your whole body mind system, and giving you some tools that you can actually start to reclaim your health through all levels of healing. You can't just address it from a spiritual aspect or a psycho-emotional aspect, or do a detox or a liver cleanse and think that everything's going to turn around. I really believe that when you look at your individual prescription based on where you're at and what's a kindness to your body, that you're going to get the change that you want because you're choosing it. And I see so much of this, and this is something else that I'll probably talk about in a day or two, because I do work with a lot of people in the health industry to fill their practices, whether they're yoga practitioners, whether they're kinesiologists, whether they're nutritionists. And there's so much conflict going on in the world. And I've been there myself too, where every fiber of your being, like I talked about earlier, is like, do I go there knowing that these are not my clients and hope that I'll prove myself wrong? Or do I follow my gut knowing and stay aligned to my purpose, stay in that heart space of showing up and giving generously to the people that you know are looking for you and they just don't know how to find you yet? So this is the whole thing around abundance. Your nervous system, your body wants you to thrive. You are abundant. You have the blueprint within you, and nobody knows your body better than you. So when you actually give yourself the space, the breathing room to calm yourself down, to create mental white space and get really back in touch with your true nature, you're going to get the mental cues. You're going to get the body cues to moving towards the people, the support, the information, the education, the communities that can hold you in that and support you in getting yourself forward. And it all starts with really looking at the past life experiences that you perhaps haven't had resolution on, the stories that are still running your life. And it's never the same for everybody. You know, it's about getting really honest with yourself and what's stopping you from thriving, what's stopping you from healing, what's stopping you from filling your practice, what's stopping you from creating a great business and having a business that actually supports your lifestyle, right? Because it's your birthright to thrive. We're not supposed to struggle and suffer. So what would it take for you to actually give yourself the breathing room to follow the gentle cues, follow the nudges, and listen, tune into your body, tune into your nervous system if it's screaming at you like mine was this morning, and stop forcing yourself out of alignment with what you know is true and kind and honoring and nurturing for you. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow, I kind of keep getting a feeling based on the clients that I've seen today. I can't believe it's Friday again. That, all right, it's telling. All right, that was really funny. It told me I was running out of data. and I probably got put on pause. So what I was saying is, yeah, I'm getting an energetic nudge that I'm going to speak about some of the things that are possibly been on your mind. If you've been like some of the clients, some of the people that have been having these great conversations with me, looking for ways to get clarity in how they can increase their abundance and fill their practices, and also heal on a deeper level from this root cause of trauma, of why they're staying stuck and why they're in that cycle of abuse, whether that's with money abuse or relationship abuse, that it feels right to actually look at how can you increase your abundance, how can you increase your money streams, or fill, look at where money's leaking out of your life in this energy of receiving, because perhaps you are ignoring what's light and true for you and forcing yourself to be in places that are not a kindness to your body or your business, right? And your business should be the joy of living. So if that interests you, give me your questions, put your comments below on this link. I would be honored to follow the energy of what you're asking for, because without you I wouldn't have my joy of how I get to show up and support people in healing from trauma and living happy, healthy lives from a place of peace and inner calm and clarity. So have a great life. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Let me know what's going on for you, what's coming up in your life, and how can I support you in a bigger way to show up and get your work out in the world, because there are people waiting for you that you don't even know are waiting for you. And I want you to be able to use your story to inspire other people to know that they can heal, they can be their own medicine, and they can fly, because you are being that inspiration for them. And remember, I say it every day, the world's not looking for someone like you. The world is looking for you and your divine gifts that only you have. So look at what's stopping you and get the support so that you can heal all those old faulty belief systems. And even though you're afraid, keep going, because your work matters and you're important. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of my community. Take care. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye. Mwah.